Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm with Communications for Yale First Nation. I'm going to talk about setting up the sound system that we have. I'm going to start right from the get-go so you get some good experience of knowing how to set up a system. The first thing are the K&M stands for the speakers. Now, it's important, these K&Ms are pretty durable. When you set them up, make sure that it goes to, there's a red tape line, and the reason for the red tape line is because these need to be straight for the best support. And it's important to note too that don't over crank these. You can, like anything, you can de-thread it, so just tighten them nice and snug. Don't over tighten them, because when they are put in, they will sit nice and strong. Now, setting this up, it's at the lowest height. Now, if you're putting speakers on top of this, which these Pulse PL12s will fit on top of, they've got a hole in the bottom. It's nice and strong. Remember, there's a notch in here. If you want it nice and high, and I would say that there's also a loosening nut here. If you want them high, make sure that you put it at its lowest setting before you raise the speakers, because putting the speakers on when they're 6 feet in the air is really difficult. So put them on here, and then you can adjust the height. So what I'm going to do, especially for in the parks, if there's heavy wind, I would keep it at the lower setting and then put the speaker on top of it, like this. Okay, they set in quite nicely, and they can swivel. Now, in the back here is where you put your leads from the board. One lead goes in and the other can daisy chain, and daisy chain is if you have other speakers, it can go out to the other speaker as well. So that's what it looks like. If you want to raise it, and if you're inside in a larger auditorium, have somebody help hold it. You can pull out the pin here, bring it higher to the next pin, and then put it in like that. So make sure to get help to do this. And then you can, there's a little thing here that you can snug in to keep it from moving. Don't over torque it and de-thread the nut here. If you're in a park and like today, it's super windy here, and it's, you know, there's a little bit of rain, and you have your soundboard and things under cover underneath a tent or an area where rain won't get it, but the speakers are in the elements. It's a really simple solution, and it works really well. Is you grab a couple of garbage bags and you just cover them, so that the speakers will obviously still work really well, but at least you have them out of the elements. So something like that, and you have the leads underneath, it still works just fine. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is set up the speakers for the wiring. The wiring for the speakers. There's a red piece of tape, electrical tape, which means that red goes on red, black goes on black. So this is what is the polarity, making sure that the right one goes in the right way. If you reverse them, you end up with very tinny sounding speakers. Wow, the wind is blowing like crazy here. So this is for the channel 2, and this is for channel 1. Now, the important thing here with the channels is you can use them for right and left. That means you can actually track your speakers for stereo if you wish. So make sure they go in the right places. Remember, don't over snug stuff, just make sure that it's in and secure. that you don't torque it too hard, that it's just in nice and snug. Okay, so the next thing is there's power lead underneath here, and you plug it into your main board. This is hold on here. As you can see, when it turns on, it will light up. That means that there's power coming to the power bar. And I'm just going to switch it off for a moment, and then I plug this one in here. You have got the power lead where the power goes in right here, and you take this one here, plug in the power at the bottom, make sure it's off, and you also plug it into the power bar. Which is right there. Now, really important is how to turn on and off your system. I turn my power bar on, I turn my board on, as you can see here, and then I turn the amplifier on. To turn the system off, do it in reverse. You turn off the amplifier, and then you turn off the board. It's really important because what happens is you don't want any kind of surge, as well as you don't want to hear huge popping and sounds coming out of the sound system when people are around. Now, these are the plugs that come from the main out of the board, and they go here and here. This is left and right channel, and go into the power supply. Okay? So this is the signal that comes from the board into the power amp, and then the power amp signal goes out into the speakers through these right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the power on the power board. As you can see, it's all lit up. And then I'm going to turn on the amp. You can see it lighting up. Now, if you look at the dials here, it's set at 8. Okay, when you bring it closer to 0, it means it strengthens the amp's power, so it would technically get louder and louder and louder. So I turn the board on, I turn the amp on, and then I turn on the board. Now, I make sure that all my levels are zeroed out, so that there's no big clicking and sounds that come through the system. And what I'm going to do is I plugged in on the CD out. I got a little Sony Walkman here, and I set that up. So I'm just going to turn on my little Walkman just to make a test. So it's playing, and then I turn up the sound to the mains here, and this is for the CD and tape return, and I turn this up. Now, when you're doing your sound system, there's a headphone jack here, and you can monitor what's happening through a set of headphones. And what I'm going to do now is hook up a mic and show you how that works. So what I'm going to do here is I'm plugging in the microphone, and what I make sure that it's in snug and clicks. The microphone is off. Now, there's an important thing to realize here, and that's called the gain. Now, the gain is actually not a volume, but what it does is when you're dealing with the microphone, it's the frequency that you set it where it's the optimum frequency for the actual microphone. The actual volume is at the bottom here, as you can see down here. This is the volume. Then you bring it up, not all the way up to where you want it at, but a little bit lower, and you can turn the mic on and give it a test. test. 1, 2, 3, test. Testing, testing, testing. So, yeah, as you can see, the mic works fine. Now, with the snake, which is over here, it's got a 40-foot lead on it, and there's lots of different connections, as you can see. Now, it's 40 feet long, so you can have it. You can have the board way back, close to the crowd, so you can have listen to the sound. It's important to note that with the snake, don't plug everything in. There's lines that you can see here that can work for, you know, somebody's amp or guitar, or a piano, and then there's microphone leads. Now, only plug in what you need. For instance, if you only have 3 mics, just plug in the 3 mics and a couple of leads. Let's say if there's a piano, make sure that you use the plug that says mono on them, because then you get a better quality sound. Make sure that the speakers, the microphones, pardon me, are behind the speakers. So if you have them in front of the speakers, you have a more possibility of having feedback. And there's lots of tutorials on YouTube to learn how to use a board there, because you've got your EQ, you got your high and low, and you need to learn how to set those, and your mic gain and your volume, so that you can get a really crisp, nice sound. I'm just going to give you a heads up on microphones a little bit. Some microphones need phantom power, and this has a phantom power button. You might possibly plug a microphone in and you think, hey, it doesn't work. But there's a plug here. What it does is it gives the mic power, so that it will power the mic so you can actually hear it, and the button's right here. See? Okay, like that's a super simple setup, but it should work for you. When you shut the system down, make sure that you turn your board off first. Like I have there, you can see it here, a little click, and then you turn the amp off, and then you can turn your power off, and then you've got no more electricity. You can unhook it and safely, you know, take down your system. Thanks very much. I hope this helps. If you have a problem setting it up, give me a call right away and I'll help you out the best I can. Thanks.